The title of my intervention project was A Mindfulness Approach to Mitigating Trauma. Um, I chose this intervention project to address the trauma that was experienced by five of my coworkers who worked out of our Charleston office and were subject to a robbery in mid-September. After the robbery, they experienced difficulty sleeping, bouts of anger, um, feeling exposed, feeling unsafe, um, an increase in anxiety, increase in depression. One particular staff member, was uncharacteristically emotional and experienced bouts of crying, etc., that were kind of unexplained. At the time of the incident, because we're mental health professionals, we offered for them to have intervention with another agency, a partner agency of ours, who offered to come in and provide some counseling. They said they didn't need to do that. Three of them are clinicians, and the fourth is a social worker, and they felt that they did not need that kind of intervention because this is what they did on a daily basis, is address these kind of circumstances with other people and mitigated trauma experiences. What I came to realize is that they, like I think the majority of therapists, live by the do as I say, not as I do ethos, instead of doing what we require or encourage our clients to do, which is to take care of ourselves, to be self-aware, to do constant assessments of where we are and how we're feeling, and so that we are coming from a healthy place. We don't tend to do that. We tend to focus on our clients, focus on our family, focus on everyone else but ourselves. And that was the case with this group of folks. So after a couple of incidents where they just weren't kind of recovering the way we thought that they ought to, I decided, and it just happened to coincide with this project, that I would go do my project with them, and so we did a 4-week, 40-minute mindfulness intervention. And it's quite an experience when you're dealing with experienced clinicians, some who've been practicing longer than I have, and are experts in their field, who don't feel like they need any help, but they didn't have any choice. So we started with a brief pre and post questionnaire. I used the Cognitive and Effective Mindfulness Scale. It's a 12-item Likert type scale, and it looks for 4 domains of mindfulness: the ability to regulate attention and orientation to the present or immediate experience, awareness of experience, and an attitude of acceptance towards the experience. And I thought that this would be a helpful scale for us to use. And so we began with where I think everything should begin, and that's with deep breathing exercises. And because they're therapists and everybody's done the deep breathing, everybody's experienced it. Of course, they do it all the time. I decided to use some play therapy techniques in order to make it a little bit more interesting. So we started, with the gentle in through your nose, out through your mouth, deep breathing, and then I brought out the bubbles and had them do that using bubbles. And I'm surprised. I use play therapy all the time. And one of our therapists is specifically a child therapist, and she doesn't use bubbles. I'm like, how have you avoided that? But anyway, so you just use the bubbles to breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth. And then hopefully, if you do it right, you'll produce the bubbles. Another intervention that I used the second week, because, we always started with deep breathing. And so I would demonstrate it for them, and then they would do it back, and then they would practice several times, and then they were supposed to do it so many times during the week, and note how that made them feel during the week. So one week was the bubbles, the next week were the pinwheel, And this one they really liked. This they really acted silly when they got this, but so I just demonstrated for them that you take a deep breath in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth, blow until you've blown all of the bad air out, just like I would demonstrate to a child, and and in this way you're getting rid of all of those toxins, breathing in good air and exhaling all those toxins. So to demonstrate, you just breathe in and out until you're out of breath. Another week, the example of box breathing breathing that I did was box breathing, where you draw a box first with your finger and with your breath to give you the right intervals of breathing, and then you can mimic it with your head. So the box breathing is breathe in, hold it, breathe out, hold it, and repeat. So they did that 1 week, and then for the last week on the deep breathing exercise, I played the Elmo belly breathing video, which they thought was hysterical. So that was funny. I wish that I had recorded that. That was really funny. Other interventions that I used during the project were guided imagery. We developed a safe space guided imagery project where each person, imagined their own safe space. The first guided imagery I did was a garden meditation that I did with them, and then in subsequent meetings, then they developed their own safe space, and then the last meeting they shared that safe space with the others in the group. Some other things that we did while we were talking about the interventions, while we were working through them, we had fidgets, things to keep on hand, like just all kinds of fidgets, different textures, fidget cubes, and so people were constantly doing something with their hands, doing some kind of fidget. And this really helped them, I think, to relax and to engage and be present. We did some kind of DBT exercises with mindfulness by taking, a piece of fruit. In one of the sessions, we took oranges, and then we paid attention to the texture of the orange, to the smell of the orange, how it felt in your hand, how you felt, holding it, and then started the process of peeling the orange and describing that sensation all the way up to actually eating the orange and talking about, all of those sensations, thinking about it, paying close attention to it, and being able to describe it. And we did other grounding exercises, such as, what we call 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Name 5 things that you see, 4 things that you hear, and so on and so on. So the outcome of these exercises, one, the cohesion in the group, and there had been some tension in the group before, the difference between between therapists who go from session to session to session and leave, as opposed to stay around and kind of have a camaraderie. And so we had different folks coming from kind of different backgrounds who worked together in the same space and have for almost 2 years, but who didn't really know each other very well. And this experience, while it was, didn't stem from a positive experience, really was a binding experience for them. They definitely are operating more as a team than they would have otherwise if they had not had this experience. They did report that at the end of the 4 weeks that they felt better able to, sleep, to regulate their emotions. they still, because there's a whole lot of fallout when there's a burglary and you have to go to court and all of that stuff. And so, they still have some anger, feelings of anger about that, but it's not all of this questioning. What didn't I do? What did I do wrong? What should I have done? Um, and it's more directed where it should be, which is on the perpetrators, and it's not tied to their feelings of safety, which is really was really important. Um, so they're moving on from that experience, I think, in a more healthful way. And as I said, this was a binding exercise for them. Um, I think that uh, this format, having done this um, with them, one of the things that they asked me was if we shouldn't do this on a daily basis and have a mindfulness moment every day where, as an agency, at a particular time, we stop and we do a specific um, mindfulness exercise. And so that's something that we're talking about on how we could best incorporate that into the everydayness of our very hectic lives. But I like the idea because it's something that's unifying. As we all work in different areas of the state and we work in different offices, and it's an opportunity for us to come together, be that on using video conferencing or however we can figure out how to do that. So that's something we're exploring um, as a result. Uh, one of the one of my favorite quotes, and to me one of the biggest, although the literature of course supports mindfulness, um, and over the last 3 or 4 years, it's really mindfulness approaches have really become part of the vernacular. Um, but one of my favorite quotes is by Viktor Frankl, and it says, "It's between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." And I think that speaks to any experience that we have, the ability to self regulate, to calm ourselves enough so that we can have a thoughtful response to whatever the stimulus is so critically important. It's important for us as adults, it's so important to teach our children, and it's such a huge part of what's missing with children who are growing up in drug addicted and trauma exposed families that we are all going to deal with. So, anyway, that was the Mindfulness Intervention Project, and thank you very much.